Welcome back to the Chase MedSearch Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, a leader who has shaped some of the most successful commercial organizations in MedTech over the last 25 years. Howard Johnson, also known as Hojo, has been the first commercial hire at multiple companies, including Axonics and Nevro, where he helped architect national go-to-market strategies, scale sales organizations, and fuel major growth across neuromodulation, spine, and even ENT. At Axonics, he delivered over $110 million in revenue, led messaging for every national sales meeting, and was named Area Director of the Year 4 consecutive times. Before that, he built the Eastern U.S. commercial organization at Nevro, developed KOL strategies that accelerated adoption, and helped bring HF10 therapy into mainstream practice. Howard is a builder of markets, of teams, of companies. And today we get to hear some of the stories, lessons, and leadership philosophies behind that journey. He's been married for 33 years to Michelle and is the proud father of Caitlin and Kyle. If you want to learn what it takes to launch markets, scale organizations, and lead high-performance teams in MedTech, this is the conversation. Howard, welcome to the Chase MedSearch Podcast.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you very much for having me on your show and for the beautiful welcome. I appreciate that. I've been looking forward to doing this podcast, so thank you for the invite.
Well, it's very well earned, Howard, and I think I shared with you offline that you have been a great friend, and you also provided one of the most memorable times in my life, which was my first visit to New York City to meet your team and talk with them, and it was just absolutely incredible. And if you'll allow me one story, the hotel I stayed at,
Sure.
Mark Jackson was staying at too, from the Knicks, formerly with the Knicks, and then he was at Golden State, I think, at the time, coaching. And classic New York memory to me was when he walked out of the hotel, there were 30 cabs lined up along the street, and they all started beeping their horns, and he went down the row and high-fived every one of them, and it was just absolutely incredible New York, and I have you to thank for that experience.
That's awesome. That's a great memory, and I'm a huge Knick fan and a huge Mark Jackson fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Great guy. Well, let's start at the beginning. What was the first spark that led you into medical devices? Was that intentional, or was that something you discovered along the way?
Yeah, so it was me getting into med device sales. It was actually a friend of mine back in like 1995. My first job out of college was Kraft Foods. So it was real service business. But my friend Doug Pasella, who was a great friend of mine, he got a job with Johnson & Johnson, and he had a report that he looked at all of the different sectors and industries, and it just showed healthcare was just booming. So he was like, hey, Hal, listen, I'm leaving Kraft. You should really look into that. So I always enjoyed helping people. I always wanted to actually do something. Being a doctor was, for a moment, something I would have loved to have done. But I wasn't blessed with the brains or the dollars to actually back that dream. So I still wanted to help people. And for me, what I started to do was to go and learn about the industry. I actually went to a bunch of hospitals and just walked into the ERs, walked into any clinic that I possibly could, and just asked everybody, how do I break in? So it's 1998. You don't have to sign in to any rep tracks or anything like that. And it's me going in, and people were embracing me all the time. And I was lucky enough that I got an interview with Boston Scientific. And after 8 interviews, I got the position. I had the doctor from one of the places that I went to, hospital, call the doctor. And I'm sorry, the doctor called my manager and said, hey, this guy, he's a little bit different. You should hire him because he's not afraid. So that's how I actually broke into the industry.
That's great. What a great story. Fearlessness is a huge ingredient in success. You've built teams, cultures, and markets, but before all that, what was your early sales style, and has it changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, back then when I was just learning really how to sell, and The sales approach that I was taught back then at Boston was spin selling. But, so I love the questions that they were asking, but it was always a little bit off for me because it felt like it was too robotic. And I felt like if it didn't come across authentically, you can get the same message across, but just do it in your own way that's authentically. And people react to what you're saying very differently. So my style has changed and evolved so many different times. But a lot of that is because of me too, because I feel like the more I keep reinventing myself, the better off I get. And the better off I can teach other people in different situations because every situation is going to be a little bit different. And if I'm teaching different people as a learner, the way that they learn is going to be different as well. So I actually have to adjust to their style and try to get them to be the best interviewer because that's what I feel like I actually do really well. I feel like I actually interview physicians, accounts, people really well. And I've developed a style over the years now that the questions that I ask are not about me. The questions are based on learning and more information about why people make the decisions that they make, what's the behavior behind it, and then recapping it back to them and say, thank you, doc, this is what I've heard. Or if my customers are my reps or my leaders or my clinicals, hey, so, talk to me a little bit about what you want to get out of this quarter. And they're my customers. So whoever my customer is, I've got to keep interviewing them because their behavior is always going to change. And that means I have to change my style of who I am, how I approach them, so I can continue to learn and evolve with them as well.
Yeah. And I think what people are already hearing is you're doing this in a very disarming way. It's not threatening, it's collaborative, it's approachable, it's reasonable, and you can dialogue back and forth.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I even go to physicians or have reps when we spitball ideas all the time. Just ask them, say, listen, doc, if can we do an evaluation? How many cases do you feel is a great evaluation? And if it's 3 or 5 or whatever, then okay, so can we do ours? And if you're not pleased with the results that it gives to you, the outcomes, then listen, if that's something that you're made a decision on sticking with the company, no problem. I just want to show you what the product that I have represent and all the facts that I'm telling you, because anything I do tell you will be fact-based.
Yeah, that's key. You've been
Yeah.
repeatedly the first commercial hire, Nevro, Axonics, or one of the first. What type of person signs up to build something from absolute scratch rather than join something that's already established?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know if I can say that I'm a little bit out there for signing up for that, but I think that anytime that you do sign up to take something from nothing to something great, you have to have a hunter mentality. You have to have a strategy behind you. You have to really understand what the vision is of the senior leadership. You have to understand what the CEO wants to accomplish and what their goals about what they're telling the Wall Street as well in the market. And that way, what my goal is to try to do is try to reverse engineer that into a high performing, high executional team. So, you have to be a hunter. You have to have it that you're not afraid to make mistakes along the way. You have to be able to train like for example, when we came out at Nevro and also at Axonics, the teams that I was able to train, it felt like when we got FDA approval that it was a helicopter that was just dropped with a sniper team of individuals that were ready to go. They were prepared. They knew exactly what their mission was because they knew their targets. They knew how to verbalize. They knew how to message. And there was nothing left for chance. And the goal was to go out, learn as much as you can, execute on the mission, bring the information back, and we're gonna continue to grow and evolve that message along the way. And that's really what we did. I mean, it takes a special breed of a person to go into a market with no market share and be like in Florida, for example, was the state that I had. We went from zero market share to about 75% market share in the matter of 3 to 4 years. And that takes an elite sniper team that they believe in me and I believe in them. And I'm more of a servant leader. So there's nothing I'm going to ask people to do that I won't do myself.
Absolutely. What an incredible ride that had to be. What surprised you the most about that responsibility?
Yeah. What surprised me the most, and looking back, was the sheer pace between both companies, Nevro and Axonics. And Nevro, it was more of a same training, but very slow, methodical pace. At Axonics, it was the complete opposite. I was fortunate enough to, like be the first hire for both companies. Commercially, I had a chance to really understand the vision of, and I feel blessed by this, of my CEO, Ray Cohen. He's the best CEO that I've ever been around, for so many different reasons. But the strategy was, we are going to be the market leader. We are going to take over this market, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go and we're going to go in. And he made it so easy for us because he simplified things. Like, I just want you to deal with 3 things. And that was the beauty behind so many things with Ray, that, he was so special for me in learning and really learning what not to do. And, when I made mistakes, he would take me aside and he would say, hey, listen, here's why you can't do that. Let me explain it. And he was willing and open to explore, because there's sometimes that he just didn't know what he didn't know. And he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I understand why you did it now. So it does take, right from the top, the CEO, you have to understand that vision. You have to embrace the vision. You have to break it down for your team, that vision. And you have to simplify that vision for your team. That means ADs, TMs, CSs, that it is truly all for one and one for all. And everybody knows their roles and responsibility. There's no questions in there. And, when you get people, especially great salespeople that I have been so blessed to be around for so long, they know how to execute at a very, very high level.
Yeah, and you touch on several things, but one is the greats always seem to know how to simplify. They take a lot of complex information and a lot of moving parts, and they boil it down and say, these are the most important essentials to get right. And I've heard from more than one person that Ray is just an absolute master at that.
He is. Yeah, he really, really is. And, for me, my team didn't hear anything really from above, that could have been any sort of negative, whatever it could have been, like comments, whatever messages. It was my job to protect my team and to make sure that I armed them with positivity all the time, that it's my job to do that. And I really protected them from, so if I did something wrong, I'm not one of those leaders that'll be like, I'll go to the rep and say, hey, I got blamed by Ray because of what you did. My reps wouldn't even know. And I would take the bullet because that's my job, to take the bullet. That's what I signed up for. And I would correct it, but I would correct it privately, not publicly. And I felt like I built a reputation of honesty, transparency, and trust because I did that. A lot of companies talk about transparency, and I think very few people actually know what it means.
Yeah, great point. What did you get wrong early? Take us inside one of your mistakes. What did you have to learn the hard way there?
I really just learned how to lead people, other human beings. I felt like I was a very good
Mhm.
rep at everything that I did. A lot of number ones on my resume, a lot of great opportunities that I had that I was given, and it's different when you're a great individual contributor. When you've got to get to lead other human beings and meet them where they're at in their life, that is a very humbling experience. And I got a lot of those things wrong, I felt. I got things right, but I also got a lot of those things wrong because it was about what I wanted to get out of them versus asking them what did they really want to get out of the job and how can I help them get
Mm.
there. And I think a lot of managers struggle with that. Everybody wants to be Michael Jordan, but it's tough to have Michael be a GM, or because no one's ever going to be Michael
Right.
Jordan. There's only one.
Mm-hmm.
And Kobe was the closest. But that's what I learned the most is how to humble myself. It wasn't about me, and it's about everybody else. That's what leadership really means. It means taking care of everybody else. And that means that I got to meet people where they're at every single 3 months. I've got to have the same conversation. Where you're at. What do you want to do this quarter? What do you feel like you can do? What are the goals you put in place? Have you even thought about putting goals in place? That's my job. My job is to get the most out of people. When I partner with them and when they feel that I'm in it with them because I love them and I care about them, then things are very different versus all the mistakes I made along the way. So, the people that may be listening and this did affect you, I do apologize if you were one of those that I wanted you to be a little mini Hojo. That wasn't fair to you, and hopefully, I corrected that along the way.
Well, I haven't ever met anybody where you got it wrong. I'm sure they're out there, but that is not something I normally encounter. In fact, you've been someone that has been someone that people even that don't work for you directly have been very comfortable reaching out to. And I know that's not anything you tried to do, but I've just talked to so many reps where you were viewed as a national leader and your influence extended beyond your own district. How do you think people became comfortable just reaching out to someone that's not their manager and talking to them as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I feel like if you're calling me for something, you may not be getting that out of your own manager. And they picked up on some sort of a connection with me that of being honest because they felt that I was going to care about them
Mhm.
enough that I would help them along the way so they would trust me enough to call me confidentially. And my philosophy is this. I feel like I've been blessed in my career with what I have been given and what I have done for myself with great teams behind me. So it is my job and my duty to give back to anybody and everybody who calls me.
Mhm.
I do. I feel like I have an obligation to them.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I do feel that I didn't have a lot of those individuals maybe along the way. And that's part of it, I think, too. And sometimes I wonder if that's my own fault. Sometimes I wonder if those individuals there was some sort of jealousy there or whatever that along the way. I mean, med devices is tough and it's very, very cutthroat. I kind of don't really care about the drama part. I don't care about the title part. What I care about what is I do with other human beings and if I can make them better and do they want to get better? Do they trust me? Do they want to be part of something great with me or regardless without me? Even in competitive companies, I've had people call me and say, "Hey, Hoj, I got a problem. Can you help me?" Absolutely, I
Mhm.
will. Like, I don't care because at the end of the day, people are the ones that make companies, not the other way around.
Yeah. And it all comes back. I've found that over and over in my career. You give out and it,
All comes
it just
back.
comes back. Do you view that first management job as the turning point in your career where everything changed? Or do you have another moment in your career where you say, if I look back, this was a moment where really everything turned.
Yeah, one specific example that I can give to you from a rep standpoint was when I left Medtronic in 2010 and I went to Vertos. So I was at Medtronic for 10 years, launched InterStim, got really early on launching pain, did well, got promoted both times, left on my own. I went to Vertos. I had the whole Northeast. And the first thing that my CEO says is, nobody's getting patient brochures. Not one patient brochure. And we were like, wait, what? If you need a patient brochure, then why do I need you? And I got to tell you, that is a moment that I will never forget. And I was so angry about it early on. And I was so thankful and grateful very shortly afterwards, because it forced me how to really sell, how to really talk to an APP about, hey, when a patient comes to your office, how do those patients present? How do you work them up? Do you see this kind of spinal stenosis in your practice? Do you know how to read MRIs? Do you need help reading MRIs? All of those things. And I'm really thankful that my CEO at that time did that for me. And I told him that afterwards, because I felt like after my career at Vertos Medical, I finally learned how to sell. Authentically, really sell and go deep within practices. I felt like I was a very good service representative and manager at Medtronic. That was a big difference. And when I was at Nevro as a leader, the first one there, it was a big job for me, Jordan. I got there, I was a rep, I was an area director, and Mike Enzing hired me. I was extremely thankful for him. And I remember asking him, "Hey X," he goes, "Hojo, I want you to be the first one." "Okay, what do you want me for? You want to be a rep? Want to be a manager?" He goes, "No, I want you to lead the country. Doug's in Australia. I want you to lead the country." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" So it was a big job for me. And number one, I appreciated him doing that for me and giving me that opportunity. I learned so much, but really I learned so much about what not to ask and what I didn't know what I didn't know. So I took all of those things that I didn't know what I didn't know. And number one, it hit us in 2016 Q1, because when you always have to stay in front of the market. Wall Street will always catch up to you. And the analysts are really, really great for a reason. So when they caught up to us at Nevro, we had to hire a whole lot of people. And I learned so many things from that. I'm so grateful from that experience of just not knowing what I didn't know, because we at that time we were told this is the price we were to come out with. You can only have one account, maybe two accounts. And, you only have, if you're going to go FDA approval and get, have a couple of hundred reps and things like that, you got to go hard and you got to go fast. And your pace has got to be exceptional. So fast forward to 2018, I met Ray Cohen. And it was very different for me when I met him. I met a person from my tribe. Now he's a CEO. I'm not that, but he just, no, we're going to move fast. I want pace. This is what I want. I want the best. I'm willing to pay for them, and I need your help. And I felt like, he's a New York guy. I knew exactly the language he was talking. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a place for me. And I asked on my interview, two things. I said, hey, can I forego my commissions and pay me my commissions just in stock? He's like, no, you're crazy. I'm not doing that. So the second thing was, I said, do I have a limit on how many people I could hire in Florida, Louisiana, and Arkansas? And him and the chief commercial officer said, no, not at all. So I was really thankful, because I just took the playbook. I said, here's how many reps Medtronic has. I'm going to put somebody and cut the territories up front. So I never have to do that ever. And I'll be honest with you, like we really trained hard. And I'm so proud of the team and that team that I had, that culture that I built. It was so special. And, getting promoted along the way, I helped a lot of people that even weren't in my regions. But I had two individuals, Ashley Erickson and Robbie McMullen, that, Ashley just said to me, like, because I would interview people every quarter, the reps, and I'd be like, what do you want to do? I want to be rep of the year and I want to beat this one specific person. Okay. You know what sacrifice that's going to be to do that? Robbie Mack said the same thing. And, he actually won 2021. Robbie Mack won 2022 and 2023. And then I met Rich Panino that in Alabama that I have to tell you, I think he's probably one of the single best human beings that I've ever met. He's a leader now and he's just such a special person, but he might be the most successful person I have ever met in neuromodulation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because he is cut from a cloth that I feel is very similar, that he always wants to get better. He will always ask, what do I need to improve on? He always will ask me, how can I be a better leader with my CSs? How can I be a better leader with hiring? How can I do this better with my accounts? And it's always learning mode. The people who are in learning mode all the time and don't take things personal, those will be the great ones. But they're just so few because you can have learners and then you have to have the people that want to sacrifice on top of the learning. And that's a hard mix, man, because you got to ask your CSs to be all in with you at that same time. And there's very few people like Jen Skeltons of the world in Nashville who, she is so good to her CSs. I have never seen a TM so good. And Rich Panino, same thing. Same thing. They're very, very good. That's why they're all in with him and them.
Yeah.
That's what great people do, though.
That's fantastic. We opened with how you got in to medical, and you've been in medical now 28 years. I've been in 25 years. And I talk to people that have been in as long as we have, and they have kids and nieces and nephews and all that. And they're like, I don't even know how to advise or coach my own kid on how to get into medical. And what do you tell people now? How do people break in? You've hired a bunch of people over the years.
Yeah, I mean, if they're asking me if they're not in the industry right now, I ask them, okay, well, tell me what you have done so far, and I want to see if they've actually done anything or they just want the playbook to do it. I really enjoy the people that have come to me with some things and it hasn't worked out, but at least they're trying on their own. And to me, that shows a lot of the guts that you got to have and that grit that you need to actually get to somewhere that you haven't been. And you got to be uncomfortable doing it along the process. The other thing I tell people is go to the 3 companies that I love to hire from. And years ago, it used to be like the Forest Pharmaceuticals, I think Stryker, Associate Stryker reps, fantastic. But the 3 companies that I look for are ADP, Enterprise, and Paychex. And I tell folks, go to those companies. It's B2B. The training program is great. You'll get to hear no a lot of times. When you do that for a year and a half, 2 years, come back to me and I'll help you. And here are the recruiters I'm going to use to help you with.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that it does make a difference. But I'll also have them call people that I trust that I may have just done this exercise with. They were at ADP or Paychex or Enterprise, and I'll have them call them because I want them to help share, that philosophy with other people too, so they can understand what that experience is like.
That's great.
Then it's up to them.
Yeah. It's a terrific breeding ground for medical salespeople. So thanks for sharing that and your experience, because I try to harp on that all the time. You've met and interviewed and hired incredible people throughout your career. Something that I noticed very early on with you as a manager, Howard, when we worked together at Medtronic, was you were very comfortable with hiring people, even though they were different from you in culture or background or whatever it was. You somehow knew that you had someone special in front of you, even if that you didn't have much in common with them.
Yeah.
How do you identify that? Because I think sometimes in our industry, we get a little myopically focused on sort of these. They are wonderful, but they're very cookie cutter, in some ways. How do you know when you've got somebody in front of you? Because I can think of a regional VP right now that you hired way back in the day, who's terrific, and she's on the East Coast.
Yep. Yeah. I have been fortunate enough in my life that because of my background, I'm half Cuban. My mom's from Cuba. I grew up in a household that really didn't speak English very well. Culture to me was something really important. What people stood for was even more important. And the example that I used before, and a lot of the mistakes I made, was I wanted to try to find, before when I was hiring people, other Howard Johnsons. And what I learned really quick was, okay, let me backtrack and find out what are some of the intangibles, what are some of the things that people that made up great human beings. And a lot of that could be sports. A lot of that could be, things that they had potentially with maybe a rougher upbringing that most people won't ask on an interview. I will. I'll ask people. I'll still ask, who paid for your college? Was it a scholarship? And the person in front of you, you owe them an obligation of a fair interview, even if they don't look, sound, anything like you, because everybody always is so used to, if you're like me, then that's something that I want to bring on board. But can't you imagine somebody who is different than you, but is built the same way internally and comes from a different place, that they could help a team grow so much better, so much faster? And people need an opportunity, man. They just do. And, I'll never forget this. One person that I hired, and he's a family member of mine. I love him to death. Tim Jourdain. I hired him back in 2006. He was, back then at Medtronic, I was a rep. He was one of my junior reps, along with Rich Grant, who were awesome. And we were growing so fast. And I remember sitting in Rahway Hospital in New Jersey, and I asked him how he grew up, and because he was a football player, did fantastic. He went to RPI scholarship. When I asked him about his story, and he started tearing up, and I started tearing up before he even started saying anything. And I was just like, oh man, this is my kind of person. And I knew right there, like, that was my guy. And, he's my guy for life too, because like, I'm the godfather for his daughter. And I just feel like in med devices, and hopefully other human resource people officers or maybe would hear something like this, stop looking at percentages and start looking at hiring good people. Go to the places that maybe you don't go to just because people are different. It might make you uncomfortable. Too bad.
Yeah.
Go hire good people, because there are a lot of people out there who are good people. Yeah. And that goes for all different kinds of individuals. I feel like the industry looks too much at percentages. And to me, that is a negative way to look, or punitive way to look at hiring potentially great people.
Yeah. Wise words. In my own personal experience, I placed a woman in Atlanta who was very non-traditional, and I set her on the interview because I really liked her, and I didn't know how she would perform, and they hired her. And then I was talking to their VP of sales, who went on a field ride with her and went into one of the major accounts in Atlanta. It might have been Wellstar. And I said, how was that field ride? And he smiled and he said, she said and did things in that account that I did not even know were possible to say or do to an account, like to go down to purchasing and say, honey, you need to put this in right now. This is an order that you need to make. And they just did it. And then they walked out behind the desk and hugged her. And he said, I just had never seen
Yeah,
in my life any
that's
rep
awesome.
with this kind of access and warmth. And he said, it's just impossible to match. And she was their number one rep for a long time.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So just a very unorthodox
Yeah.
hire, but one that just got things done in major sales. So I think about that when you're talking. Um,
Thank
you
you.
have to perform at a high level year after year, and challenges and demands don't get any smaller in medical device. What do you do? How do you continue to perform at that level? What level of reinvention do you have to do each year, and what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a hard one to do, especially with the pace and growth of high double digits, 20, 30% every single year. It's not like 5%, 8%. Everything that I've been used to for the last, I don't know, since 2010 have been more 20 plus percent a year growth or more. So you really have to look at everything as a leader. And this is where a lot of, I feel like the magic comes in, because you got to take whatever the growth number is. The company is not giving that growth number just because they want to minimize income. That's not the case. They want to maximize income. But it's going to depend on the rep you have in front of you. Do they look at the job as an opportunity, or do they look at it as a job? Those are two totally different things. Because when the window of opportunity is open, like Ray Cohen gave to all of us, man, you got to hit that thing so hard, because, after it gets bought out, the window closes. So what a leader should do, what I have done is this, is every single year I'll take the number and say, okay, guys, I try to take things in small bites. So I just take things quarter by quarter and just say, okay, let's get the number. Let's reverse engineer the number. Let's see how many active accounts we have, how many trials on average you're doing, how many implants you're doing, how much revenue you're doing. And then, because it all starts with active accounts. And then what I'll do is I'll say, okay, how many new accounts do you think you'll need? And we'll just build the plan for Q1. But when we do build the plan for Q1, it's me, it'll be the area director, or just me and the rep and the clinicals. We all spitball ideas about what the talk track and what the strategy is for every single account to get them to where they need to go. So what that means is every single account needs to have a quarterly business review. Every account that you have that's an active account. I don't care if somebody does 5 a year or 50 a year. You got to go to that account and say, hey, listen, so this is what you did last year. This is what you did last quarter. Q1 of last year, this is what you did. What's your goal for Q1 of this year? And you got to get on the same page with people. And when you do that and you're not afraid and you put it almost like a business, that's just a strategy. Our physicians used to love our quarterly business reviews. And they would be like, I can't wait to see what my new number is, that one of the reps gave us. But they felt like as a challenge, and they want to get to that level. And it's really us partnering with the account to get them to where they want to go. And that is special in itself. The hard part is you can do that, but then how do you have the messaging? How do you have the verbal jujitsu to really get that account to really understand? For example, I'll let you know. So like I'll go in every one of my business reviews with my reps. I'll say to them, okay, so Doc did 12 trials last quarter. Doc has how many APPs? They have 2. Okay, so out of the 2 APPs, how many did they give to the doc for trials? I don't know. Well, guess what? That's your job to know. Because what we do know is that Every APP sees about 20 patients a day. That's 100 patients a week. That's 400 patients a month. And we don't know what their treatment algorithm is. We don't know who is referring to them. That's your job to know so you can help educate. And once I get them, that light turns on, then things start to open up. When I get people to get it to open up for them and they see the differences, then they start believing in themselves more and more. And then it's my job to go and say, you think you can do more now? Yes, I do believe I can do more. I said, stop giving yourself a limit. Everybody likes to give themselves a ceiling, and there should be no ceiling on a human being, on an individual. Your ceiling is whatever you put on yourself, but you've got a window to do whatever you can. And if you're fortunate enough to get with a company that has a CEO like a Ray Cohen, then, your whole life can change. Ray gave me an opportunity that he changed my whole life.
Yeah.
Forever.
Fantastic.
And that wasn't his job to do that. It was my job to take that opportunity and make something out of it.
Yeah. That's great. And great alignment. He had the opportunity and he had the right person in you, and it just all came together. Something that obviously was a critical elevation in your career was going into management. And, one of the things that we talked about before we, kind of got on this podcast was just how people can engage their leadership to help them to get to where they want to go. And I know you have thoughts on that. How have you seen that go successfully? How do people begin to engage their leadership?
I think wherever you're at, we're either a bigger company or smaller company. My opinion is that the bigger the company, the more traditional programs that they will have for leadership development. In my opinion, that's a little bit more of a glorified bench to keep people warm, just to keep them at the company. That's just my take. The younger companies, the smaller companies, the startup type young companies that are out there, they're going to get a lot of leaders because you're going to get a lot of growth. Anytime you have 20, 30% growth, you need more leaders. So the way that I feel, it's going to be a two-way street. The rep has to show leadership qualities and that initiative that they want to become a leader. And the leader that they're asking has to give them the appropriate amount of time, real time and energy to create a plan, a growth plan, assign mentors that are not just that one manager, other managers across the company. Could be different, it could be marketing, could be other places, because one person's voice is not enough. You need a channel of all the good things that people do and try to get all the good things that they're doing so they can learn. It's field rides with those individuals. It could be, hey, can I join your team call? Can I be a part of your meeting the next time? That's what I would do. And I would have the learnings of it from the manager and the learnings of it from the rep and say, tell me exactly what you got out of the meeting that you feel like you can use later on. I would have them included on some of my one-on-one calls. And those were kind of tough sometimes because I would be giving some critical information and, the person would be like, Hojo, man, I can't believe, how you actually went through that with them. I'm like, well, I care about that other person. I'm doing it because I really want them to do better. They know that. So you got to be honest with everybody too. And again, you just have to have a plan. You have to take things in small bites, and you got to work it quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter until they get there. And if opportunities come up, great. If people have a timeline for it, meaning that if I don't get promoted within a year, I'm leaving, that's not the right intentions of why they want to leave. I won't sign up for a person like that.
Right. Wrong intentions lead to bad outcomes usually, for sure. Well, this is just absolutely fantastic conversation, and you've been very generous with your time, and you've answered a bunch of questions I already had prepared along the way.
That's okay.
Maybe one more. If you could write one sentence on a whiteboard in every medical device training room in America, what would it say?
Yeah. Um, you know, I'll give you one that I always tell people. Um, a difference is a difference if you make it a difference. A difference is a difference if you make it a difference. Um, and the one thing I will tell leaders is believe in your people, even when they don't believe in
Hmm.
themselves, because they need somebody to believe in them all the time. And that's hard. It's hard to do that all the time. But people come around, man. When they see the leader that they believe in that person, that rep comes out of it. That clinical comes out of it. That area director comes out of it. And it's beautiful when you see it like kind of like blossom on its own, and you sit back and you say to yourself, man, I'm glad that, I did what I did, because look what this person is now. I love when so many people along the way that I've had to be able to, I can touch their lives, and I see they're doing jobs bigger than my job. To me, that is the greatest thing that somebody can give back to somebody else. And as a leader, that's your job, man. Your job is to give back. It's not about you.
Yeah, that's just I don't think I can improve on that at all. Hojo, thank you for being on today. You have made a tremendous difference in so many people's careers, so many people's lives, that you're doing it again on this podcast. So thank you for being on.
Yeah,
I really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. Um, you have been an inspiration, Jordan, for so many people, and so many people of a lot of different cultures too, that need a chance as well. And congrats to you on your career. I've known you for a long time, and you've always been such a stand up human being first, person that everybody trusts also. So thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thank you for those words.